Hi, what's going on, y'all? Today we're gonna be talking about the fighting nerds, and as someone who loves the fighting nerds, I just witnessed all of them lose in the year of 2025, unfortunately. So today I'm gonna be talking about my expectations for them, reevaluating them, and give you guys an overall opinion as to where I think these guys will end up now that they're coming off their first loss. Now that everyone's basically turned on them. Listen, I still think a lot of these guys are good, but at the same time, I think I was hyping them a little bit too much. And I was thinking like, oh, these guys are the next big thing. Yeah, it turns out not really. But yeah, I'm just gonna evaluate every single fighting nerd that or at least the main four that lost within this year. So yeah, without wasting any more time, let's jump right into the video. All right, starting off with Diego Lopez versus John Silva. Yeah, I said that John Silva is going to KO Diego Lopez in the second round. I believed at the time that John Silva's shot selection is just different to nearly anyone else that Diego Lopez has fought, maybe minus Volkanovski. And I didn't believe that Lopez was really going to try and wrestle because he never really did that. But hats off to Diego Lopez. All right. Turns out his chin is one of the most built different things on the UFC roster. And he wrestled a lot more than I thought. His ground control and ground and pound were absolutely filthy. I gave the first round a 10-8 to Diego Lopez. And his defense also improved. Like, I thought that Diego Lopez was going to get clipped more cleanly than I thought. Even though he did. Like, he couldn't get KO'd. And I thought he was gonna get hit more during this fight versus John Silva. But Diego Lopez, he's still that dog. And as for John Silva, listen, I still think he's around like top five-ish level. Like I would pick him to beat Yair Rodriguez, Brian Ortega. Um, I tentatively say Aljamain Sterling, even though I think that's a bad matchup. Josh Emmett, like there's a lot of guys within like the 3 to 8 range that I would pick Jean Silva to still beat. So if anything, I say this was like a great win from Diego Lopez. Like I rate this win more than any other win Diego Lopez has had throughout his career. Like the Brian Ortega win, I don't care for. And anyone else that Diego Lopez has fought previously, I always said that Jean Silva would probably knock them out as well. So this was actually more of an impressive win from Diego Lopez, rather it being a fraud check from John Silva. Because again, John Silva, he was kind of doing his thing. All right, he was doing a very good job of finding of creative shots like the spinning elbow, the front kick up the middle. It was just that Diego Lopez again built different and he's looked a little bit more improved than when he fought Alexander Volkanovski. All right, now moving on, we got Benoit Saint Denis versus Mauricio Ruffi. I said that Mauricio Ruffi will be able to find the KO shot on BSD in the first round. And what happened instead was BSD ragdolled Mauricio Ruffi and exposed Ruffi's grappling. And it wasn't just that, oh, Ruffi doesn't have any takedown defense. Ruffi has a hard time getting off the bottom. My reaction to this fight was like when Rufy uh decided to not engage in the guard of BSD. I was like, ah, crap. This guy has no confidence in his grappling whatsoever. And BSD had the green light to just shoot takedowns nonstop, wear down Mauricio Rufy, and eventually find the round two rear naked choke. And on the feet too. Also realized Mauricio Rufy, like if you don't give him the space, he's not good at finding the shots. All right, he doesn't do well in the pocket. The only time he can find the KO shot is when you're at distance with him. So it's very concerning as well, especially if he fights any sort of pressure guy, high pressure guy who can get in the pocket and hold Mauricio Rufy up against the fence, or like possibly tee off on him when as Mauricio Rufy does all of his fancy schmancy defensive moves, and I do fear that he might get caught in the process. And overall, I'm very concerned for Mauricio Rufy. Like, I went from thinking, "Oh, this is a free win to get into the top 15," to now being like, he might lose to Alexander Hernandez, or he might lose to, I don't know, Chris Duncan. Like, these aren't the guys I thought that Mauricio Rufy might have to struggle with, but it seems now that Mauricio Rufy might struggle with those guys because even though he's a much cleaner technical striker, I don't know, he could just get walked down and he could just get ragdolled again, like what happened in the Benoit Saint-Denis fight. So yeah, Mauricio Rufy, I'm very concerned, and I don't know what's gonna happen in this next fight. Maybe they give Rufy like a easy opponent or an easy stylistic matchup. But if he fights anyone who's like either high pressure wrestler or like a pocket boxer, I'm very concerned for Mauricio Rufy. All right, now up next we got Ian Gary versus Carlos Prates. I said that Carlos Prates was gonna walk down Ian Gary because Ian Gary has no aggression. And to be fair, that wasn't a bad take. All right. Ian Gary throughout his last three fights just willingly backs himself up against the fence and just like kind of just eats out decisions by just landing it a little bit more. And I thought that Carlos Prates was going to be able to close the distance slowly but surely and eventually knock out Ian Gary. That did not happen at all. All right. Ian Gary decided to all of a sudden become this crazy output striker. He came out with five-piece combinations and pieced up Carlos Prates for at least the first three rounds. All right. I will say this though. Carlos Prates, he kind of doesn't push action. All right. I thought that Prates was going to be more aggressive, seeing as how Ian Gare was boxing up for the first three rounds. But no, that's not what he did. And unfortunately, that kind of costed him. I still think he's like top five ish level. I do believe that Carlos Prates is going to still knock out Leon Edwards because I know I said the same thing for Ian Gary, but when has Leon Edwards ever moved aggressively? Right? He has never thrown five-piece combinations. Right? He's never done anything like that. He just kind of sticks to just feinting and leg kicking at range for a 48-47 decision. That is the Leon Edwards way. I don't see Leon Edwards deviating from that way. The second he tries to engage with Carlos Prates, I suspect that Carlos Prates is going to knock him out. So yeah, I'm going to go with Carlos Prates to knock out Leon Edwards. And I still think that Carlos Prates is top five level. And to be fair, I think that was my general expectations for him. All right. I didn't think he was going to get to the belt. I always thought that guys like Sean Brady were probably going to ragdoll him. Shavkat Rakhmonov might like manhandle him. Uh, Bilal Muhammad might be a little bit of a stylistic difficulty. But at the same time, he could potentially knock out any one of these guys. There's a chance. And he still has deadly power, but yeah, he kind of made it clear that if you're able to output max against him, he might be overwhelmed and he might not do well. So Ian Gary kind of exposed that part of his game, but maybe Prates has improved, and I still think that Carlos Prates can be a mainstay in the top five of the welterweight division. All right, now up next we got Nasruddin Imavov versus Caio Borralho. I said that Caio Borralho was going to mix the martial arts and take Imavov to the cards. That's not what happened. Imavov defended all of the takedowns and just boxed up Caio Borralho for nearly 5 rounds straight. And even though Caio Borralho lost, however, I thought he looked about as what I expected him to do. Right now, I said that Caio Borralho was going to win, but I never believed that Caio Borralho was going to all of a sudden turn into a primary grappler. Like every single Caio Borralho fight I watch, he shoots like what, two takedowns max every round. All right, he doesn't really mix in more of those, and I was like, okay, if Mavov can defend like the two takedowns per round, then he's probably gonna win. And that's what Mavov did. Right? And Mavov kind of showed levels on the feet as well. I didn't know that Imavov was a lot faster than Baralo, so I don't know. Imavov just did well, and Baralo, like again, even though I said he was gonna win, I thought he was gonna have more success in the grappling. But fair enough to Mavov, he did not let the fight take place on the ground and on the feet again, and Mavov is the much cleaner striker. So even though Kaya Barala lost, again, he looked about as good as I thought he would. And it seems to me now, Kyle Burrell, he's probably going to be a mainstay in that 5 to 8 range. I think that's where Kyle Burrell is going to be at throughout like the next couple of years. Overall, they kind of lowered my expectations. Not really though. Like I didn't think he was going to beat Hamzat even if he beat Imavov. So there's that. But yeah, I used to think that Kyle Barral was gonna be like a top 3 middleweight, but now I'm thinking more like top 5 to 8. So there isn't that big of a change, but I think my expectations for him have slightly lowered. Alright, that's gonna be it for today's video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think of the fighting nerds now that all of them lost. And again, I don't think most of these guys are necessarily frauds. I think most of these guys, they're gonna be like top 5 perennial contenders. And realistically, that was kind of my expectation for some of them at least. So I am very interested to see like will they be able to bounce back? Will they be completely fallen off? Only time will tell once they fight again. But yeah, if you guys want to see more videos like this, though, please make sure to like and subscribe. And if you guys also want a recap of what happened last night between Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Crawford, leave a comment down below, and I'll consider making that video. But other than that, though, again, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Peace.